Hey friends, welcome to my channel. It is time for my August reading roundup. I love these videos. I do. They give me life. So we are going to talk about August. We are going right into September, and I've already read a fall book. I'm so excited to tell you about it, but I have a lot of books this time around. I'm going to try to not spend a whole lot of time on each one, but I only have one physical book that I read this entire month. Most of the books I read this month were actually on audiobook or Kindle, so I don't have a lot of physical books to show you this time around, but that's okay. We're still going to talk about them. Okay, so I'm lumping these first two books together, and guys, do not hate me, okay? Please do not hate me for this. So I have a Canon Plus subscription, which is Canon Press, and they have their own subscription service, and they have tons of books on this thing. I love Canon Press. I love all the books that are on there. I get to read so many good books, and I read a series books, but it was only two. It was just like number 1 and number 2. Now, if you are about my age, you may remember a book series called Left Behind. I have to say this up front. I am no longer a dispensationalist, okay? I grew up a dispensationalist. I am not a dispensationalist anymore. I'm a post-mill girl, and I lean over to R.C. Sproul's type of view on that, if you want to read more into that. But that's not what this video is about. These books have taken the Left Behind books and kind of spoofed them, and it was hilarious. I'm sorry, I have never laughed so hard in a book series. I read all of the Left Behind books. I gobbled them up when I was in high school, and when I was in high school they were releasing. I was in high school in the 90s and early 2000s, and my friend and I, and she's still like one of my very best friends in the world, we read these together and we were like obsessed with these books. So I remember the storyline very, very well, and Indy Wilson spoofed the books, and I'm sorry, they're hysterical. I was just in stitches listening to these books, and listening to it made it even funnier because he got to put emphasis on certain words, and like I'm still laughing thinking about it. It was just, if you are not a dispensationalist, go find these books. They are super, super funny. The names of the books are Right Behind, a parody of Last Day's goofiness, and Supergeddon. Every time he said Supergeddon, I think I lost it. Please don't hate me for this if you don't believe the same thing. If you're a dispensationalist, I still love you. I have no problem with that. Like, it's not a salvation issue. It's not a first tier issue. It's okay if you're a dispensationalist. It's okay if you do not agree with me on this. I'm not mad at you. I'm just saying I read the books and I thought they were funny. Okay, so the next book was actually on Canon Plus as well, and I read this book because my son was starting, which book is it? The Worldviews in Conflict, and he was gonna have a big section on Karl Marx coming up, and so this was kind of like a preparedness thing for me. The book is called Karl Marx and the Satanic Roots of Communism. Really interesting book. I learned so much. I listened to that on audio, like while I was making dinner and stuff, and wow, like I've never studied Karl Marx. I never studied him in college or in high school. I knew very little about communism until probably a couple of years ago when the kids started schooling. So this whole idea to me is pretty new. Yes, I was public schooled. So, and I was public schooled before a lot of this stuff was, you know, mainstream and being talked about a lot. And my classes really never went into this. So for me, a lot of this stuff was very new and very fresh and very interesting. And it really helped me understand the material that I'm going to be teaching. So great book. I thought it was a really good book. I enjoyed it, and there was a lot of just like audible gasps when I was listening to this book. It was very eye-opening. My first novel of the month. I could not wait to get my hands on this book. The British booksellers Oh, I loved it. It was a very interesting story. Now, if you remember a couple months ago, I showed you the Italian ballerina, and I was kind of wishy-washy on how I was rating that, just because it was very hard to keep up with the alternating storylines, because it wasn't just 2 storylines, it was more like 4 storylines or 5 storylines, because you had the current storyline, you had the storyline of the 2 main characters, and then you had the 2 main characters' backstories, and they were all intermixed. So you had like 5 lines going everywhere, and it was really, really hard to keep up because it was like jumping all over the place. And especially reading that on a Kindle and not being able to go back and reference dates and things very easily, that was really hard to keep up with. This is the same author, and she kind of does the same thing, but I think she took advice from a lot of people like me who had problems keeping up with the alternating storylines and everything all over the place, because this one was a little bit more organized and it was a lot easier to keep up with. So the author's Christy Cambrun, and I really liked this book. Now, it's classified as a Christian book, but I will say it's more clean than Christian. There was not a lot of Christian content in this. In fact, they really don't talk about God at all in this book. There is mention of a church, so I would classify this more as clean, not really Christian, but that's okay. It was a really good book. Really enjoyed the storyline. It was a World War II storyline about 2 booksellers that are across the street from each other. They knew each other in childhood. They went through World War I, and now they're older, which I liked that they were older characters. They were like in their 40s, and one of them already had grown children at this point, and how they reconnect. So really great book. Really, really enjoyed it. Oh, you know what? I actually had 2 books. Hold on. I did, but I'm not going to go get it. I'm just going to show it to you. The next book I read was Shepherds for Sale by Megan Basham. Now, a lot of you are going to have issues with that book. I understand. I know it calls out people by name. I've been a Megan Basham reader for a long time. I knew most of this information. I knew most of the information that was in Shepherds for Sale. Shepherds for Sale is an expose on what they call Big Eva, and it exposes a lot of big mainstream people in pastoral roles. I have a really hard time calling some of these people pastors because just reasons that are in the book, but really good stuff. I'm not going to comment down below or get into arguments with people in the comments about certain things that she brings up in the book or about certain people in the book. Honestly, I'll probably delete those comments. So if you have a problem with Shepherds for Sale or the fact that I liked the book, then I would recommend not even commenting, because I'm probably just going to delete those comments. I don't want arguments down below in the comments section. That's not what my channel's for, and my channel is supposed to be a happy place. So I'm just giving you my opinion on these books. I think it was a wonderful book, especially for people stuck in some of those churches. I hope and pray that they read this stuff and they take it to heart. The chapter on abortion, oh my goodness, was eye-opening. I thought that was the best chapter, was the chapter on abortion, and basically how they've morphed the term pro-life into something completely different to mean a different thing than it actually means. And I highly recommend reading that book. It was very, very good, very well done. Megan Basham did an amazing job on that. The next book I read was also on Canon Press, and it's called Yoo-Hoo by Rachel Jankovich. Oh my goodness, that was so edifying. Ladies, read that book. And I really think that this is a good one for teen girls, especially. It's like a really coming of age book for teen girls, but at the same time, I got a lot out of it. And just, you know, it's about finding your identity in Christ and who you are. And it goes even into a little bit of philosophy and where like these ideas that are permeating our culture today, where they actually came from. Very, very good book. The next book I read, I got an advanced reader copy for this book. It's called Spectres in the Glass House by Jaimie Jo Wright. This book releases, I believe, next month, and 5 stars. That was one of her best. This was my first fall book of the year, and it got me like in the mood for pumpkin spice everything, and Oh, it was so good. It was so well done. You know, I've read a lot of Jaimie Jo Wright books, and some I loved, some I didn't. This one was really good. Her last two have been very, very good. The last one I read, I gobbled that up on my Kindle. This one, I was so excited to make the advanced reader copy team. So she sent me an advanced copy on my Kindle for a review. I mean, it was so good. And I didn't even know that specters, like I was not sure like what that word meant. Like I actually looked it up. Don't make fun of me. I actually looked it up. So it's like another term for like a ghost or a spirit. Jaimie Jo Wright has a way of writing these spooky stories and these murder mysteries, but they always turn out to be something else. So while it might allude to ghosts or something like that, it never really is that. It is something else, and it always, you know, draws back to Christ, and it always draws back to a logical reason why these things are happening to these people. And as a military wife, I loved the military angle that this took. I'm a Marine Corps wife, and if you read this book, then you will understand why, one of the reasons why I like the book. And I don't want to give too much away about it, but basically it all revolves around this manor and this butterfly house that is on the property of the manor, and this young woman whose mother has died and whose father has just recently passed, and she basically has to live at this manor, and she's torn about what happened to her mother. Was her mother murdered? Was her mother just sick and had a heart attack? You know, she's not sure what to believe, and she is really having a hard time with these things. And then it's a split timeline, and that's in the early 1900s, and then you have the timeline of today, and you have a girl, Remy, who is helping an author write a book about our main character from the early 1900s and how it all ties together, and about the murders that have happened on this property. Were they really murders? They don't know. So it's a mystery. It's all shrouded. So it's very interesting. And as you get more and more into the book, things become more clear, and you really see Remy, the main character from today, lean on her faith and, you know, really kind of lean on the new family that she's making to help her piece these things together. So I was really, really happy with this book, and it was a fun read. So the last book I'm actually still reading. I have about 50 pages to go, but it is R.C. Sproul, A Life. This is a biography of R.C. Sproul, and if you have been around my channel for a while, you know I love R.C. Sproul. I don't like autobiographies, okay? I do not like biography genre books. They are such a snooze fest to me. But this one is a very long book. This book is in total about 400 pages, I think. It's like high 300s. Yeah, 365. Okay, so there's 365 pages in this book. I'm very surprised I have enjoyed this book, but we're reading this as a church for Reformation Month in October. So we are going to be studying this October R.C. Sproul. So R.C. Sproul is our theme for Reformation Month. So you know I'm going to go all out. So I have my R.C. Sproul shirt ready to go. I read the book, and I love R.C. Sproul. I have so many of his books at home. So being able to read this and read more about his life and who he was, more about his wife, it's been a really great, edifying book, and very interesting seeing like some of the people who he was friends with and who he interacted with, and how his ministry began, how Ligonier began. Really, really neat book. Really, really enjoyed it. So highly recommend this one if you like biographies. This one is a good one. It's very well written, and there's a lot of really cool information about him in there too. So that is my book list for August. We are done. So I am going into September. I will finish this book probably by the end of the week, and I will start my September list. I have a couple books already loaded onto my Kindle because I have a Kindle Unlimited subscription. So let me know, what did you read this month, and was it good? Do you recommend it? Post some book recommendations down below in the description box. I would love to see what you guys are reading right now, and I will see you next time. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and happy homeschooling.